Hotties of Reddit, when did you discover that you were hot, and how did it affect your personality? Honestly, it's weird. As a guy who has gone from extremely skinny to really fit twice in 3 years, I can tell you it gets uncomfortable. Mainly because the second time around you realize how shallow people are. Little things like acquiring help are easier when you're attractive, but making friends as an attractive guy is probably one of the most belittling things you can experience. People just assume you're a douchebag. End result, you become a bitter douchebag. I never noticed, but I always do kind of stereotype good looking guys as douches. I have ugly duck syndrome. I went through a horribly awkward preteen/early teen stage years. I was chubby, had a horrible haircut, was nerdy and socially awkward. I grew a few inches in my later teen years and started working out. Ended up losing lots of weight. I developed better social skills from being in theater and having to deal with awkwardness all the time. Drama kids FTW. I guess I started seeing a difference when I would drunkenly get asked out by guys all the time, or when strangers would compliment me. I didn't see a huge shift in personality, except maybe that I find myself irritating. I still have huge self-esteem issues, except that if I complain about a part of myself I don't like, it comes off as fishing for compliments, when really I actually do still see myself as an awkward 13-year-old. The other thing I've noticed is that I'm super distrustful of guys, because, as cheesy as it sounds, I don't know if guys like me for my personality or my ass. I mean, I'd love it if a guy was into me for both, but it ducks with my head a lot when someone is really into me, but I can tell they've built me up in their heads to be something as not. Anyways, now I feel like a narcissist, so I'll just stop here. Hope that answered your question. People always used to tell me I was pretty and that I should be a model and whatnot, and I always figured it was bull because I never cared about my appearance until around college. In college though, I did start to try to make myself look nice, and it was actually really horrible what happened afterward. Literally 4 of my closest guy friends who I had been really close with came out and said they had always had crushes on me, and although I tried to let them down in the nicest way possible, those relationships just aren't the same. I feel really guarded around them now. I also just started feeling really objectified, and it made me think about a lot of stuff like, I always question if guys are talking to me because they're actually interested in me, or if they just think I'm hot. And I think being valued so much for your appearance is really damaging psychologically too. I never felt this way before, but now suddenly I'm really worried about how people will treat me when I get older and I'm not longer hot and young. It's really depressing, honestly. Ignorance is bliss. Yes, I have to be very careful around newer guy friends, because if I act naturally, playful, competitive, they start crushing on me. So I'm usually really reserved and quiet around guys. Edit, around guys, not in guys. My bad. About 2 years ago is when I found out. It was after a few months of girls latching onto my side that I realized that those girls weren't cuddling me because I was warm. I had always just assumed they were cold. Personality wise, not much happened aside from me teasing them a bit when started hugging me. That's hilarious, but I can see how that process ran out in your head. Guys have a habit of being dense because the costs of us guessing wrong are severe. Very true. I'm paralyzed by this. Basically, I've known I was perceived as attractive since about 9th grade. I got a lot of attention from girls, and it made me arrogant and kind of a dick. This continued up to 10th grade, where I'd be dating a few girls at the same time without regards to their feelings. I started talking to this one girl. She called me out on my bullshit and told me that my personality made me ugly. That made me realize that I needed to change. I really liked this girl and didn't want to be someone she despised due to my character. I took a year off from dating and girls to work on myself. I came back my 12th grade year a changed person. I dumped a bunch of friends who I considered toxic, made new ones, and I was more caring for others. I rekindled my relationship with the girl who brought about the changes in me. This year we'll be married for 3 years. I'm very glad she was bossy enough to stand up to the good looking cool guy on campus. This is probably a movie. Kudos and congrats, bud. I've always been the guy who got the pretty girl. The only way I'm aware that it's affected my personality is that I have to be extra nice or people will assume I'm an asshole because I'm handsome. Kind of annoying really. People assume I'm being patronizing when really I'm just somewhat awkward. I was never hot at school. I was super nerdy, spotty, and hilariously awkward. Things started changing when I was at college. I got more into music and adopted styles that suited me better and I was comfortable in. I didn't have anything before. I took a year out between college and university and apparently that's the time I suddenly seemed to just shift. I'd always been quite active and never had an issue with my body, but my younger teen problems started to fade. I was more styled and comfortable within myself, and suddenly people were hitting on me. Before I was 17 I could probably count on one hand the amount of people who genuinely tried to hit on me or express interest. Compared to the more popular kids I was invisible. Some girls simply took puberty in their stride and were glamorous and attractive right through school. When I got to university, I was really taken aback with the interest I seemed to get. Probably didn't help I was one of only a handful of girls on my course, but everywhere I went I was getting all this attention that I'd never experienced before. I was still brutally shy at this point, but it at least gave me confidence that just maybe, I was actually attractive for the first time in my life. I certainly attribute some of it to the fact that everyone is simply getting dornier at that age compared to school, but I was genuinely starting to accept I was probably more attractive than I gave myself credit for. It didn't exactly help me come out of my shell though. If anything I probably got even more shy and used the small circle of friends I had as barriers. I went my entire first year single despite numerous, and even repeat, advances from some guys. I had never been a social person and suddenly being thrust into a spotlight, I had no idea how to handle it, so I simply didn't for a while. The more friends I got however, I got more relaxed and more willing to be in social situations without clinging to a handful of people. It was a really awkward time for me trying to adjust, but it's interesting to look back and laugh at myself now for being so reclusive and timid. I'm now much more at ease with people. I can meet new people and actually act like a normal human being. Found out a couple of years ago, I had that awkward teenage phase where all my limbs were too long and my nose was huge. I've always been a bit too skinny. When I was about 17 to 18, my body parts sort of evened out. I got a haircut, started buying clothes that were actually my size, and started using contact lenses instead of glasses. People notice me a lot now. Strangers come up to me and comment on my looks or ask me for my number. I get stared at a lot. I get catcalled a lot. My friends tell me I'm beautiful all the time. Some people seem to automatically assume I'm stupid, even though I'm well educated. 7 years at uni. I ducking hate it. I've never felt beautiful. I can almost feel grotesque some days. I feel like it's all just lies and that someone's gonna jump out and scream psych soon and tell me that I'm really as ugly as I feel. I tend to try and hide my face behind big sunglasses, and I often wear shawls wrapped loosely over my head because most of the time I just want to be left alone. It's great when you want to get into a club though, and I rarely have to pay for alcohol because I've always got a couple of men standing by waiting to buy me drinks. Even though I tell them I'm gay, oh well. I was always the quiet one in primary school, so I didn't get any attention, good or bad, and automatically assumed I couldn't look that great to anyone out there. Then for the year 6 school disco my friends did the classic 10-year-old girl thing and gave me a makeover. I got compliments all night, felt incredibly confident because of all these people paying attention to me who wouldn't have talked to me otherwise, and from then on I just kept feeling better about myself, smiley face. Just wait until you get to high school. So, I don't think I'm a real hottie, but I'm definitely a better than average looking person, and I hope I can contribute to this question. I really started looking better by the end of high school, and I noticed that other people noticed me. You know, little things like strangers' eyes lingering on you, people commenting on how you look good, and stuff like that. I didn't really react to most of it, and I found the compliments to be fairly off-putting for whatever reason. However, I will say that there were some benefits I tried to exploit. I learned that I could get free things for girls working in the service industry with relative ease. Stuff like gift cards, upgrades on airplanes, and discounts at bars and restaurants were pretty common if I put in a little effort to be engaging. I'm not sure if that's because they liked the interaction with another person, because I was decently good looking, or some combination thereof, but this worked for me. In terms of misconceptions, I'm not sure. I don't feel judged often. But if I had to guess, I would think that people often wouldn't tag me for someone who loves video games, plays trumpet, and enjoys reading. Hope that was what you were looking for. Got any similar examples? Leave it in the comments below.